Council is now called to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Councilwoman Cotler.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will ask everyone to please remain standing. That for those of you who haven't been at one of our meetings before, this is the portion where we like to highlight the importance of including physical activity in your daily routine. That experts recommend that if you include around 30 minutes of physical activity in your regular routine, it greatly reduces your risk towards chronic disease. And the management of chronic disease makes up over 80% of our healthcare spending. So for our time that we get to have together, try to encourage the utilization and inclusion of physical activity in your regular routine by doing some. So we are just about to embark upon a wellness challenge here amongst the city employees that involves doing jumping jacks. Now I'm not going to ask anybody to do any jumping jacks this evening, so I'm going to make it a little bit easier for you. We got a full house tonight, so we may have to do one side at a time or the other. Maybe we'll adjust that. We were going to do these. But with everybody here, maybe we'll just stick your arms straight up, and then we'll do some arm circles like this. You can go the other way around as well. Very good. You can go ahead and put your arms down. Thank you very much. And now you got 30 seconds of your 3 minutes today.
I can jump that high.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilwoman Cutler?
Present.
Councilman Galloway?
Here.
Councilman Fettinger?
Present.
Councilman Stables?
Here.
Councilman Rosinski?
Here.
Councilwoman Scheer?
Here.
Councilwoman Maychak?
Present.
All present.
Right, and then that takes us to approval of the minutes, of which we have 2 sets of minutes to approve. One from the regularly held session of the council, which was on January 17th, and then the second set of minutes from the joint meeting between the Redevelopment Commission as well as the Common Council, which was held on January 25th. I would entertain a motion to approve both sets of minutes as submitted.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to the minutes?
Just a correction, the January 17th Common Council minutes, the spelling of name, wherever they are throughout the minutes, I presume you can do a search routine. But Elena Mrazinski, his first name is spelled wrong. And any reference also, I saw one reference to Elena Mrazinski there on the first page, about 5 paragraphs down. And then there's 2 different references to Liz Ward, bottom of the second page, beginning. Liz is L-I-Z-Z, not L-I-Z. And actually, it's referred to at least 3 times there for Liz Ward. 3 spellings of that minor correction.
Any other corrections or additions or deletions?
Make a motion for approval.
Well, actually,
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval as amended, and all those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Then the minutes are approved. That takes us to, let's see, yes, we'll do petitions and comments of the citizens, and we'll open up the floor. If anyone would like to address the city council this evening. Would anyone like to address the city council? All right.
Hi, Nicole Messinger, President of LaPorte Park Board. Do you want my address? Sorry, I've never addressed City Council.
Do you need the address for
Park Board, we asked for addresses. 1401 Illinois Ave, LaPorte. I would just like to say, as the president of the Park Board, that the Park Board unanimously approves the bond for the golf course. That's all I'd like to say.
Great, thank you. If you could come forward and give your name and address.
Steve Raymond, 173 Regency Parkway. I'm here to support the petition for the Beechwood Golf Course. I moved here in 1968 as the recreation director, moved away and moved back by choice. Some of the parks given to the city and the Fox family were Beechwood, Civic, Fox Park, Soldiers Park, Kessling, Rumley, Scott Field, Allison Park. The town is blessed with many strong people of wealth who've donated to our city. I need to congratulate too all the economic development people, the mayor, city council, downtown development, the airport commission, the chamber of commerce, the economic development department of the city and the county. As you know, South Shore is going to be developing 2 tracks to Chicago, which eventually will make our county, more accessible to Chicago than anywhere else on the west side of Chicago. So I think it's the one plum in the sky that is going to really attract people to our community. Beechwood is an important part of that economic development. The last bond issue for the park department was in 1999 for $2 million. We have not put enough money into our parks. We've kind of let them dilapidate. The water system at Beechwood was put in 1980. It is broken and obsolete. The water system needs to be done now. It's long overdue, and the system is on life support. They're robbing other people's throwaways from other golf courses to try to salvage ours. It's kind of an embarrassment. You remember, Beechwood was given to the city fully developed by the Fox family. They didn't throw us a piece of land. It was fully developed. And we have the responsibility to maintain that facility. It's a valuable asset to our community. It brings people in every day from Illinois. I golf on occasion. I'm not a steady golfer at Beechwood. But you see a lot of Illinois cars, people from outside the county. It is a valuable economic asset and will be even more in the future. We have to pass this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the city council? Anyone else like to address the council? Yes, ma'am.
I'd just like, my name is Karen Ellison. Thank you everyone for listening to me today. My address is 1526 Michigan Avenue, LaPorte. I was not born and raised here, but I spent my whole life here as an adult. I would like to say that one of the jewels of the city is the Beechwood Golf Course. Going with Steve's wonderful comments and well thought out, although I have no dates, I can tell you that if you are a person who lives by the golf course, walks on the golf course, plays golf, gets free golf lessons, is in any of the children's activities or the adult activities, you know that's a viable course. It brings people to town. They're in town, they spend money, they buy gas, they eat out, they tell a friend. People have outings there. You cannot ignore Beechwood. You need to take care of this. The city needs it, and you need to be responsible for little kids who are out there golfing today so they can golf as adults. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the council?
My name is J.R. Francis, a little hoarse right now, but I live at 1424 Illinois Avenue. And my thoughts on this are that if we had not had Carlos with us this year to take over a really failing, as Steve pointed out, taking the throwaways from other golf courses to fix the water system that we had, we'd have a lot of brown and black patches of dirt out there right now. And I've got to say that if we don't keep this golf course in the condition that this new system will do for us, then you're going to have 2 other golf courses in town with much higher rates, and then there's a lot of citizenry who's not going to be golfing because they can't afford to pay 50-some dollars on the north side of town. It's just something I think we need to keep here for the citizens, as it was intended by the Fox family.
Thank you. Any further comments? Yes, please.
My name's Tom Wolfong, president of the Beechwood Men's Club, 121 Parkview Avenue in LaPorte. I'd just like to say that I'd like to comment on the support the comments of the other speakers that have spoke here tonight. I don't think you can really appreciate, especially from a young man's point of view, the youth that comes and plays, and you'll have 30, 35 kids maybe participating at a youth golf program that Kyle runs. And if Beechwood's not there, those 35 kids won't have anywhere to go. So I think before we have any opposition to this, we ought to think about the kids, think about, just what all Beechwood means to this community before we cast any no votes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further commentary? Anyone else like to address the council?
Hi, my name's Tom Wells, 2912 South Collins Drive, and I guess maybe on top of all the other supportive comments, and at the risk maybe for talking for the whole school, I think everyone should know about the number of tournaments that we hold at Beechwood, both sectional and regional levels. Both of those tournaments are chosen from the IHSAA down in Indianapolis, and I think the conditions of the golf course are very, very important. And we do host the Jubilee tournament. We host the Pat Ford tournament. I think Sonny could probably talk more about. I think it's the oldest high school golf tournament in the country. And for us to have the conditions of the golf course that are, it's just really important that those conditions are good. And just more support for the golf course.
Great, thank you. Any further comments?
I'm Jerry Bishop, 414 Woodson Street. I was just up here, I guess, to support more information that, yeah, I'm all for Beechwood. The watering system is in deplorable condition. It needs to be upgraded. And I would also pray that you guys do not vote no on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments for the council? Any other public comments? Anything?
Can I make a comment? Just before we close public comment, I know everybody's talking about, and I just have one question, because I know we're talking a lot about the course itself, but looking at, we're about to spend money on Beechwood Golf Course, but does anybody want to make any comments about the other than the course itself, the facilities, the clubhouse, and that, because that's all part of some of the issues. Being just a scratch golfer out there, I used to hear a lot of comments about some things not up to par, the restrooms and things like that. I don't know if it's some of those upgrades where they rank in relationship to the sprinkler system.
To me, if you don't have a good quality golf course, the condition of your clubhouse isn't going to make a difference, because nobody's going to be there anyway. People go to a golf course for the condition of the course. Now, it's great to have a great clubhouse, great bathrooms, stuff like that. But if you don't have a golf course, then nobody's going to show up there anyway. That's my opinion anyway.
Thank you.
I'd like to comment. The facilities, Brian Shallick's family donated a beautiful shelter out there this year and really improved we tore down the the old shelter, which was, pretty shaky. I think it fell down almost by itself. The clubhouse is old, probably needs to be replaced, but I want to say that the maintenance people, they painted it, they've decorated it, the pro has worked hard on it. It's livable. Long-term future, I think that we should have a new clubhouse, new parking lot, and spend some money. The city on a whole has not spent much money on our entire park system. $2 million over the last 25 years is pretty abysmal. I mean, I know we have other problems. The roads are 10 times better than they were a couple of years ago. My hat's off to the mayor and the council for getting the bond issues, the matching funds and whatever. But our park system is part of economic development. People come for schools, they come for parks, they come for Beechwood. We need your support all the way through. We need more people in the town. The whole United States is consumer driven. And if we don't have more people come in, the people who sell vacuums or any kind of equipment, household goods, they don't have anybody to sell it to, because people like me, I've already got my stuff. You know, I'm not gonna be buying a lot of new fixtures. So we need new people coming into town, young people, so we can progress. And Beechwood is just one part of the puzzle. We have so many people working for economic development that I'm really proud of. We need more people to come into town, and this is another primary reason to have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark Schreiber, I'm the park superintendent, 1404 Illinois Avenue as well. To answer Joe's question, as far as the condition of the clubhouse and some other amenities, if we're ranking projects, Joe, the irrigation's here, and then the clubhouse comes here, and we've got a cart barn that has a dirt floor, we've got a roof that needs to be replaced desperately, we've got furnace and cooling issues out there as well. So there are other issues, and we work very hard at that. I'd like to point out, along with all that, though, one of our greatest assets is our pro, Kyle Cashmere, and we also feel like we've hired a great superintendent. He didn't get to show off much last year because he was coming in at 4 in the morning to water greens by hand and spent probably 90% of his time dealing with the irrigation system. So we're looking to get him to a point where he can spend 15 minutes a day on irrigation instead of 7 or 8 hours a day. But the time that they put into it is tremendous, and our staff should be commended as well. But I do appreciate your question, and yes, there are other issues, but as far as, as my dad used to say, between the white lines is where you got to be most concerned, and that's our greens, our fairways, our rough, our tee boxes, and that's where the irrigation system is going to allow us to be a premier course as we once were, and we very much will be again. So thank you.
Hey, one question, because I've done a lot of homework since this about this.
Sure, absolutely.
And one of my major concerns it's just that you never supplied a plan as to what they're gonna do to the greens. And there's a big difference into all the articles that I've read as to how they set up the irrigation system.
Mhm.
You know, are you gonna go under the greens? Because there's differences. There's closed systems, there's open systems.
Sure.
We've got a double system, we've got a single system.
Right.
Knowing that we've got many other needs, I look at it as a vehicle. Are we gonna put brand new tires and brand new rims on a busted vehicle, or would we be better off putting great tires on there and fix some of the other, like the transmission and the motor? That's my concern, is to say, since we've never saw a plan, and I never heard it either way, the arguments in favor of one or the other, I just wanna see, can we get by to put a decent, which is better than what we have, because anything new is going to be better, and yet still address some of like the restrooms, the clubhouse, the roof,
Right.
so that we can sustain, because we've got one chance at this, and maybe we need more money, but try to cap it. I tend to be probably the most conservative person on this council. I'm willing to, I would like to spend the money to fix this course, but I want to get as much as we can, knowing it may be 20 years before we put another dime.
No, I understand exactly what you're saying, Joe, and the answer is we want to put in an irrigation system that will be not obsolete at any time over its hopefully 35 to 40-year lifespan. That's why we want to do it right. We want to make it to the industry standard, which right now calls for, obviously it's got to be an electric system. The hydraulic that we have has been antiquated for a number of years. And we also want to do it in double row in order to get proper coverage and to most efficiently put water on the course. So Kyle can talk a little bit more about the technicals if you have specific technical questions. But as far as the caliber of irrigation system that we're looking to put in as a replacement for the old system, we're trying to put in a system that will give us the industry standard going forward for 30 to 40 years, rather than put a Band-Aid in and come back 20 years later and say, hey, what we got now is obsolete. So we're trying to stay up with the top, the best we can. And this is obviously the top for a recreational, or municipal rather, type golf course. But if you have further technical questions, Kyle is here and he can certainly answer those.
And for all of the council members and the public's knowledge, the general obligation bond that we're looking at doing through the redevelopment commission allows for us to bond for the infrastructure needs for the irrigation system. If there is money that is left over after that irrigation system, that can be used for projects like the roof or similar other projects up to the limit of what financing is available.
I had a question for Mark too. I got a call today, and some of the previous superintendents or people who worked at the golf course had called me.
Mr. Shuttleworth?
Yeah.
Okay, he called me.
How did you know?
No, he called me and said he'd spoken to you.
Okay. He said the clubhouse was a WPA project from the 30s?
No, the clubhouse was built in 1950.
Okay.
It's not quite that old, but it was built in 1950. The course was constructed in 1930, and the clubhouse was constructed in 1950. So yes, while still quite dated, not quite to the WPA. But
Okay. Well, I remember reading they had a parade from downtown all the way to the tee, and the spots teed off. And
yeah, I mean, when this was given to the city, it was celebrated as a major feat for a town to get this municipal golf course. As was pointed out by I believe Mr. Raymond, this was given a golf course to them, built 9 holes first and the other 9 holes constructed later. So they were so excited, they had a parade from the courthouse down Indiana Avenue, down what was then Beechwood, Lane right into Beechwood, and had a exhibition match and everything. That's how celebrated that course is, and how it has been, and how deeply people feel about it. I've made my feelings known to the council. I don't need to go on, but I think the number of people here tonight and the number of people that have probably reached out to you speaks to the need. But I do appreciate your question.
I have a few questions, Mark, since you're with
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We talked extensively about this, and I met and reviewed a lot of park department financial
Yes,
reports.
sir.
Going back couple decades. There's a few questions I hadn't asked you yet that came to mind. One is, how long will it take to install the system once a system is contracted for? 6
to 8 weeks. And that's why it's key to us to try and get it started as early as we can. We would hope to get it started by mid-March or late March. Allows us to get it in, they say 6 weeks, 8 weeks, depending upon weather. That would allow us to have the system in place prior to any golf activity starting out there. It would be very difficult obviously we wouldn't want to put a system in while it's, of course, it's in use as heavily as it does starting up in May. Also, that allows us to have a fully functioning system before we hit any hot summer weather.
What would be the effect of the system being installed apart from concerns around hot, warm weather and dryness, and not having a system around affecting golf play?
Well, I think we'd probably, Kyle might be able to answer a little bit better, but I imagine we'd probably have to close off holes at a time, which would make it difficult to charge, our normal rates. So we would effectively lose quite a bit of business if we're doing it into the summer months. We'd almost have to look into then maybe if it would be a fall project or a next spring project. But again, our concern would be the amount of damage that potentially could happen in the course if we don't get it done as soon as possible, which is obviously our concern.
Yeah, when you're putting in a whole new system, you're at least going to close 1 hole a day. So we can actually do it starting in March, and you can start it in March.
Your name is? Sorry.
My name's Kyle Cashmere, pro at Beechwood.
Okay.
You can close a hole a day. A lot of the lines can actually be pulled instead of trenched. So only only the main lines and larger than 4-inch pipe need to be trenched. So, we could stay open while putting in the whole system in March and April.
And then one other question is, well, a couple of the questions. Will the system provide greater coverage over the course? Is it gonna cover 50% more land area? Is it covering the same land area as the 1989 system? By the way, not 1980, it was installed in 1980.
Virtually twice as much.
Really?
You'll always have 4 heads around the greens, because the greens just need 4 heads on the perimeter. But then the double row system is on the outsides of the fairway. So then you get each row will hit the center, but then also hit the outsides and the rough.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
So we'll be able to irrigate the fairways, the tees, the greens, and then also the rough, which we've never.
So the net increase in water coverage is, apart from the greens, is roughly 50%?
A little bit less than 50%, but yeah.
Which makes,
Before we could just do the fairways, now we'll do the fairways plus the rough, probably an extra 25 feet on either side of the fairway.
and that makes for a more lush playing experience? Does that make the
Yeah, you
overall
can-
quality of the experience then? I'm not a golfer, so.
You're gonna have a thicker stand of grass, so you're gonna have less weeds. You'll be able to treat with chemicals. Most of the chemicals that we use, you have to water in afterwards. Most all of our spraying applications, it's not quite the same as you would at your lawn, where you just kind of wait and see if, it's gonna rain, you like to fertilize right before the rain. Our green chemicals, in most of our fairway and tee chemicals, you spray and then have to be watered in that night, or they will kill the grass and burn it. So a lot of the applications that we would have done this year, we couldn't do, because all we could really get water to were the greens. So our fairways, our tees, all of our rough was virtually untreated, so it was thin, and then we had some disease, and there was riddled with weeds, so it was kind of a mess.
The superintendent spent 90%, I'm sorry, you're the pro, or you're the superintendent?
I'm the pro. Our superintendent, Carlos, spent at least 80% of his day irrigation-wise.
Was that similar in the prior year? Was there a lot?
No.
Not even close, so this
We
ain't
couldn't
really.
water overnight anymore, because the system controls all went out. So the main controls and the on-golf course controls broke, so you had to water by hand. As where before, you'd set your clocks at night to water for 7 minutes on this cycle, 10 minutes on this cycle, depending on what hole you're on, whether it's a tee, whether it's a green, whether it's a fairway that you're trying to run. And it waters overnight for you, and in the morning you get there and you check it to make sure that everything ran. Sometimes it would, sometimes it wouldn't in years past, but this year we didn't have any sort of automatic irrigation control.
Okay, thank you.
All you could really do is hand water, and when you have one person hand watering, you mostly only get the greens in about 8 to 10 hours.
And with this proposed funding methodology, which I strenuously object to because it takes the redevelopment commission's authority, and that's my objection. With this form of financing, the money will be in hand when?
March.
When, March? March 1st, March 31st?
Is that mid-March?
And we close on the bonds in mid-March.
So the money's in hand around that time period, March, mid-April. So you got the money by the end of,
By the middle of March. Yeah, I believe it was March 6th.
pretty much the system is installed by mid-May then at the.
Correct, and that would be the goal, absolutely. Like you said, 6 weeks would be great, 8 weeks, we figured if there's any type of weather issues.
Okay, thank you.
Did they have a plan?
Yeah, we have a full spec, drawings and then a full packet if you'd like to look at it.
And then how many people bid? Then they'll have to go through the bid process.
Yes, we'll send it out to about 4 different contractors. There's only about 4 in the Midwest that qualify for this sort of project.
So who drew up the plans?
We have an irrigation consultant with Rainbird. They're probably the industry standard for irrigation. There's Rainbird and Toro are your tailor-made and Titleist of irrigation. And there's really only a couple companies that manufacture the products that we would need.
Is it possible then for one of the bids to come back where they might say, they might wanna change as to what they, like I said, if it's all based on what they feel needs to be done to the course? And does it incorporate all 18 holes, or, because that's what's one of the things that I heard from someone, they said not all holes were the same, and some required irrigation, some didn't.
Yeah, the way it's set up, and I'd be happy to show you the plot map, but based on the hole, you set up the proper irrigation. So for instance, on our 9th hole, we have a significant slope going towards one of our creeks or ditches, and you shade it a little bit higher on the high side and it comes down. Or if a hole branches out, you may put an extra irrigation head, and have a third irrigation head in a row instead of just having 2. Or from tee to the fairway, you may just have a single row where you're going to have a walking path or something like that, where you can shade a little bit less in some areas and go heavier in others. On our 10th hole, it's a little bit drier of an area, so you may put in more, as we're number 16 or 17 are traditionally wet, so you don't necessarily need the same amount of coverage. The best part about that with the system that we're going to put in is electronically, you just type in however many minutes you want each specific sprinkler head to run. So on our 7th hole, you'd run 5 minutes for the fairway. As we're on number 5, you'd maybe run it for 15 minutes. And you continue to tweak it. As we're now, well, we're not watering at all for the most part, but in the last 3 or 4 years, you'd set the irrigation clocks, and you didn't quite know, because they weren't really functioning properly. So you could set it for 7 minutes, and it may run for 25.
So we'll run through all the fairways then?
Yes. Yeah.
But they'll be able to shut down fairways if they're not being used.
Well, you can just change the run times. You can there's isolation valves on every single hole, there's 2. So if there's ever a leak, we'll be able to isolate each hole separately. So you can run the whole system and have one hole shut down until you can fix the leak, dig up the pipe, patch it, and put the dirt back on it. So it is a state-of-the-art system. You were asking earlier, can you do a little bit lesser system and then do more of the clubhouse? I'm sure there are ways that we could make adjustments. You'd want to wait till
just in
your came back.
Just in your opinion, how does the clubhouse rank in some of the complaints that you got?
It's got its struggles. But I totally agree with Tom Wilpon when he came over and said, you focus on the golf course. Because Beechwood is a golf course and a club for the course. Our clubhouse isn't going to wow anybody. It's not the best facility, but if you don't have a good golf course, it doesn't matter. So, would I like to get our roof leaks patched and maybe...
Well, that was my concern, because at the same time, if someone walks in there and they see a deplorable clubhouse, they're not even gonna see.
I'd say we're somewhere in between. Cosmetically, you wouldn't walk into it and be like, man, this is brutal. But working there and dealing with the leaks and the issues with the HVAC, I see it more so than the customer does. We're inefficient, heating and cooling wise. Again, we see that on our statements every month, so I see it a little bit more, where we could save some money if we had a different system. I just think you get it, like Mark said, you take your priorities. This is one, and then everything else comes a distant second. So that's my opinion.
Just one other question. I think you answered this already, Mark, but I'll make sure here. Does this system will need it's not believed the system will need any material capital expenditures for at least a couple decades? Is there a warranty?
There is a 5-year warranty. And then also, you build into the spec, into the bid, replacement parts. So we'll have 10 extra heads. We'll have different joints. We'll have swing valves. We'll have extra clocks, controls. The computer system and software comes with a warranty. So you really shouldn't be spending any money on repairs for quite some time. And if it is, you're going to have it in the barn already, heads that would potentially break. But with this new system, it is a full new double row system, so it's all new pipe, all new joints. It's all brand new, so you should be not repairing anything for quite some time.
Just curious, how is this gonna affect like mowing and such in terms of with the increase?
Yeah.
Are we gonna see a huge?
Yeah, we'll probably have to put more rough mowers out for sure. The rough will be the biggest thing. Because by midsummer, since we don't irrigate the rough, it gets pretty thin and patchy. So you can go, mowing rough every other day is where we may be mowing rough every single day. But fairway season greens will be virtually the same.
I need to ask Bert Cook a question. Bert? Don't stand back there, get up here, I wanna talk to you.
Yes, Roger.
I know your job is getting, businesses in town, okay? And I know Don Bertram's here too. You guys advertise we have a golf course, is that one of the big things when, you know, businesses come in, they want something to do? Everybody doesn't hit Pine Lake and go bluegill fishing like me.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could have a long discussion about, you know, the different things that attract people to LaPorte, but I think at the top of that list would be quality of life issues. And we do really have a unique situation with the lakes that are here and the recreational opportunities that our golf course, our lakes provide. So if you're asking me, you know, is that something that attracts people here? Without a doubt, without a doubt. I think many communities would look at LaPorte and would consider themselves very, very lucky to have the natural amenities, and I use Beechwood as part of that, that we have here. I think it becomes easy to live here and not realize the value that creates, you know, within your community. It's natural for human beings to take for granted what we have, but as far as an asset, absolutely.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
That's so stupid.
Can I make one more comment on the clubhouse? You know, I've gone to different places, played different golf courses, and never one time have I said to myself, man, the golf course was not very good, but boy, that clubhouse was great, I think I'll go back. I mean, we're not focusing on the right thing. The focus solely should be on the golf course. Now, sure, you don't want the roof falling in when you go in the clubhouse. Everybody knows that, but that's not the focus here. The focus has to be the golf course. And as far as the clubhouse goes, the restrooms were redone about 3 years ago, I believe, right, Kyle? So, you know, the clubhouse may be an important issue to some, but it pales in comparison to the actual golf course. Because you will never find a golfer that goes to a golf course and says, man, what a great clubhouse. They're there for the golf course. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments that folks would like to provide to the council?
Eric Donahue, 121 Parkview Ave. I just want to say from 4 generations of golfers, including my kids, this town is full of, there's so many things that have happened in this town as far as drugs and everything that's happened. But as far as, we need safe havens for our kids to go. And I look at the golf course as a safe haven. I've spent 10 years out there playing. My kids love it out there. My 2 sons and my daughter. They've been out there since they were 2 years old. So, I mean, I live at the entrance of Allison Park. And, I mean, I don't feel safe with my kids going down there. Because I sit at that park entrance all night long and watch cars go in and out of there. There's nobody down there playing at the park at 1 o'clock in the morning. So, we need a safe haven for our children to go. And yeah, it might not be the most advertised thing for your children to go to, but I mean, like we said, 30 kids that find somewhere safe to go in the summertime for an hour or 2 a day is better than not being able to go anywhere. And I work in Valparaiso, and I've had many people from my work come and play at the golf course and love the golf course. I mean, even with all the beautiful courses that are in Valpo, I've had many of them tell me, wow, that's one of the nicest courses I played. And for us to lose that would just, it would hurt so many things. I mean, yeah, I've even looked at moving over to Valpo. This past winter I spent looking at houses in Valparaiso. But one of the things that kept me here was the golf course. And my love for that, and knowing what it means to my children as well.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the council this evening? Any further public comment? Any further? All right, then we will close the public comment, and we will move on to standing committee report. I believe we're going to start with Councilman Rosinski. Right side there, if we remember. who's starting? No, can't remember which side we go back on.
Just a couple things. 6 o'clock for the regular meeting, but they did meet with, around where we go, last Wednesday regarding the Handley School project, and informed some of the neighbors of some of their concerns, and had a nice question and answer session to review the plans. There was some concerns with, at first with some of the traffic, in the bus routes, and then once, and some issues with the green space, but once some of the neighbors were informed about how, the necessity of having the drive for the fire trucks, they understood, and they were assured that there wasn't gonna be too many buses. It's just that change in that area. I think most of their concerns were addressed, and I think things are all improved, or better.
Thank you. Councilman Staples?
The redevelopment commission will be meeting tomorrow here in council chambers, at least for, at 2 p.m. for an executive session and a special meeting. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Dunn?
On January 11th. For the fuel policy and some practices they had on reimbursement, they actually put it in writing. Their property clearing, the Bennett farm's been cleared, so they're A-okay with their runway, as far as obstructions for planes coming in. Something that came up during one of our meetings here, though, was something about a comment saying who gets to choose who farms the land that the airport sits on. And in November, it was published, hey, come farm the airport. And they only had one person actually apply. So it was interesting to see somebody complain about that later, never knowing that we asked for people, of course, and then, we only got the one. It was a bit, they'll be doing their 5-year plan on February 8th at 5:15. And then the Human Rights Commission also met, and they're planning a training for the Human Rights Commission by the Fair Housing Center to educate the HRC in best practices for helping residents find fair housing. They discussed new ways to raise awareness, including booths during the summer, the sunflower fair, the farmers market. They're trying to raise awareness as far as the existence of the Human Rights Commission and what they can do for all people in the world. And then they want. And then, to go along with those, you may meet them at World Civility Day, which is the 13th of April, and there's a meeting at the Star Plaza Center over in Maryville. And then they have different seminars you can attend, and there's a dinner that night you can attend if you'd like to go. And then their next meeting will be coming up this month, but I don't have those minutes yet, so I can't tell you that.
Thank you. Councilman Galloway?
On January 24th, the Senate review, Starbucks came in, and it's a very early meeting, and they wanted to know what all they had to have for setbacks, and they definitely want to come into Newport Landing. I know the manager from the BZA, but like I said, it was the first preliminary meeting, and where Bob Nielsen, he had the Chevy dealership out on, I guess when they work for dealership out on Johnson Road. And he's gonna put 3 more rentals in this big building, and he was excited to finding out what all he had to have to get going on it. So, that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hutton?
Okay, the Urban Enterprise Association met January 18th. Officers were discussed for the new year and voted to remain the same. UEA also has a residential committee separate that met also in January to discuss the neighborhood improvement program. It is funded for 2017, and residents of the Urban Enterprise Zone will be able to apply for home improvement grant once those guidelines are set, one of the things we discussed that I realized was, in that meeting, was a lot of people don't really realize if they're within that urban enterprise zone, there's a separate residential and a separate business grant opportunity for people who live within the zone. So I was actually checking on the city page, and I couldn't find it. I have a copy of it, but I think that's one of the things we're gonna look to do and get the word out to more of the residents, because I think people don't realize the extra funding that is available. So that was a big thing for us this year. Historic preservation met January 24th. Officers again were discussed for the year, and again voted to remain the same. Dr. Rosenbaum, a representative of PET, reported that the candlelight tour in December drew 540 guests to LaPorte, and PET has also received a grant from the Indiana Historical Society to publish a book of candlelight tour homes of LaPorte.
Great.
Quite proud of it, I think. And then the fifth board will meet this month, February 13th.
Councilwoman Lee?
My name is Cindy Stein, on the Traffic Commission, will be meeting tomorrow night, 6 p.m. at the police station, and then the park board will be meeting February 15th at 4:30, their new time, at the park office.
Thank you. Councilwoman Sherry?
I just have to fire merit board. Brian Garland stepped down in the training officer for 2 years, and Zach Hayes is now coming in place of the training officer. The next meeting is March 1st at 6:30 on 18th Street Fire Department.
Thank you. That concludes our standing committee reports. Next up, then we have 2016 investment report.
While annually, I have to present the council with an investment report. I have presented to you that previously. We have at Lake City, we have a Hoosier Fund that at the ending of 2016 had a balance of 5.1 million, and they accrued $14,759.90 for interest. We had 5 CDs invested in 2016, and they earned interest of $25,049.45. And then the interest accrued on all the checking accounts was $12,720.30. So the total on interest was $52,529.65. The current interest rate right now on the Hoosier Fund is 0.53. All the CDs did mature in November. We are waiting to see what projects are out there before we reinvest in CDs. We need for the council to accept the financial report.
I move to accept the financial report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I just have one thing to add in the discussion that I think is always important, especially when we have the opportunity, as we do annually, to review these, to recognize the efforts of the court treasurer and her office puts into making these happen. That's now $52,500 that the city now has available to put towards projects through the diligence that her office puts into managing these different investments in an efficient and effective way. So well done to your office. No further discussion? All those in favor, please start by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposing? Then the investment report is accepted. And that takes us to the outstanding 2-year-old checks.
Once again, I have to present to the council on an annual basis all the checks that were written from the city to individuals or businesses that are 2 years old and were never cashed. And I need your acceptance to or approval to write them back into the books. Out of your civil city account, you've had 3 checks that date back to 2014 for $50.23 as a total. The employee benefits fund, there are 5 checks totaling $1,147.76. Our payroll, going back to 2014, you have 1 check for $1.29. We're thinking that was an adjustment. And then in the sewage, you have 6 checks that we're going to cash for $806.50. $168.81. Water, I'm not gonna count them, but they all total $232.42. So the grand total for all the accounts is $2,300.51.
I know on the ones for the employee benefits, the two checks for 410 and 500. Why didn't they claim those? I mean, that's a lot. I mean, I can understand the $1.29, but.
Well, there's one or two things. One is they either lost the job, and then the insurance company has replaced it, and we're not aware, and that check is just gone. But after 2 years, they're void. So, but by state mandate, we have to have your approval.
And then once again, just for the people that did have the checks, for instance, on sewage, and that they could make a claim, or they could come back if the check was lost.
Sure, if they came back later, we've already written them up or added them back into the book, and they had verification on it, we would reissue them a check for that amount.
So that happens very rarely, right?
We tried before we bring them to the council to see if we could track them down, to see if anybody's aware that they have a check out there. And there have been a few times, more so on the payroll, where they have not cashed those checks when we have reissued those.
So if it hasn't been reissued, and their name's on the list, they can just have it reissued. Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The 2-year-old check for the leave Then that takes us to volunteer of the month. And I think this month it's double points for patience as we've gotten to this point in the meeting. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Small for presentation of the information.
Good evening. We had one nomination come in for 2 volunteers with Meals on Wheels, Lucille Henson and Patty Shively. Patty and Lucille have been delivering meals together for the past 12 years. They're wonderful folks, and we're thankful to have them on our team. They've been friends for many years, and it's great seeing friends take time to volunteer in the community together. When asked what keeps them delivering, Patty says it's easy and rewarding. Plus, we have learned our way around several neighborhoods. So at this time, I would like to invite Lucille up to the front of the room to accept her award on behalf of Patty and herself.
Well, and thank you. If you don't mind delivering the additional certificate to Patty, we would appreciate your service.
She'll be here, but she had back surgery Friday.
Oh, yes. Well, we send her our best wishes for a speedy recovery.
Yeah,
And thank you for all of your service.
my pleasure, and I would volunteer every day if I could, and I challenge each one of you to find something, maybe 30 minutes a day, that makes a difference in people's lives. Thank you.
Especially with a sizable crowd that we have here this evening. This is something we do each month, and we started probably a year and a half or so ago, trying to recognize volunteers across the community. And so we want to get the word out that we want to recognize our volunteers. So please, if you know somebody who is volunteering and has contributed substantially towards the organization, we'd love to be able to recognize them as we do so each and every month. And as you can see, we've got some really great people to be able to celebrate. That takes us then to item number 10 on the agenda this evening.
All right. I move to introduce an ordinance.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the introduction of the ordinance, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay.
introducing ordinance amending section 94-322 and 94-326 of the municipal code of the city of LaPorte, Indiana. Whereas the traffic commission after due consideration has recommended to the common council that the yield sign at Belton Street, where it intersects with Pine Street, should be removed and replaced with a stop sign. Now, therefore, be it and is hereby ordained by the common council of the city of LaPorte, Indiana, that section 94-326 of the municipal code of the city of LaPorte is hereby amended to remove the following language: Belton Street at its intersection with Pine Street. Section 2, that section 94-322 of the municipal code of the city of LaPorte is hereby amended at the following intersection: Belton Street, westbound traffic at its intersection with Pine Street. Section 3, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect upon its passage. No, go ahead.
This ordinance has been read in its entirety, and as is explained, with layman's terms, it's replacing a yield sign with a stop sign at Belden Street and Pine Street. Any discussion on this at this point?
I know they're trying to get rid of a lot of yield signs in town and put stop signs.
So I move to suspend the rules so we can approve this tonight.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of suspending the rules, please respond by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. The rules may be suspended.
So I move to read this by title only for second reading.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor, please respond by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. Please do so.
An ordinance amending section 94-322 and 94-326 of the municipal code of the city of LaPorte, Indiana.
This ordinance has been read by title only for its second reading this evening. I would entertain a motion for adoption as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Is this the last? I mean, how many more meetings do we have? Nobody knows.
Driving around, seriously, they're fighting them and then coming to traffic commission, or we have traffic commissioner fighting them and bringing them to traffic commission, and then we bring it up so it can be replaced, so who knows, Joe, who knows?
Just so it's clear, I am not in favor of removing all yield signs across the city of LaPorte. This, ones that we've had brought before traffic commission are specific to situations where we analyze them and see that there's no clearance, adequate clearance of view, so they need to be changed. There are places where for convenience of drivers, it is really keeping yield signs. So I'm not in support of just removing all yield signs and changing the stop signs. I think we need to use our discretion. And I'm not saying you haven't said that we aren't using discretion, so I apologize if that came off that way. And I'm glad you're the chair of our traffic commission.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please respond by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. Then the ordinance is approved. All right, that takes us to item number 11 on the agenda this evening.
Your Honor, I'd like to introduce a resolution.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the introduction of a resolution. All those in favor of the introduction, please respond by saying aye. Any opposed, nay.
Nay.
The ayes have it. Please introduce the resolution.
A resolution of the common council of the city of LaPorte, Indiana, approving the issuance of bonds of the city of LaPorte Redevelopment Commission in related matters. Whereas the city of LaPorte Redevelopment Commission, the commission, contemplates the issuance of bonds in one or more series in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $2 million. $2 million of bonds to provide for the cost of certain infrastructure and other public improvements in or serving the economic development area, including without limitation the acquisition and construction of park irrigation system improvements to the city of LaPorte to enhance the cultural attractiveness of the entire city, including the town's industrial park, economic development area, economic development area, and a fire truck to enhance the public safety of the entire city, including economic development area and other public improvements as provided in the Thomas Road Industrial Park Economic Development Plan as amended the plan, collectively for the project, and to pay related and incidental expenses to be incurred in connection with and on account of the issuance of the bonds, and whereas the city of LaPorte Common Council, the Common Council, now desires to approve the issuance of bonds which may be payable from ad valorem taxes. Did I see that right, Tim? To be levied on the taxable property of the city of LaPorte redevelopment district, which is, I'm gonna get this one too. counterminous with the boundaries of the city. Now therefore be it resolved by the city of LaPorte Common Council as follows. The Common Council hereby approves the issuance of bonds in one or more series in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $2 million, $2 million, to provide for the project and to pay all incidental expenses incurred in connection therewith, including the cost of issuance of the bonds. The interest rate on the bond should not exceed 6% per annum. A portion of the bond proceeds may be applied to pay capitalized interest on the bonds or to fund a reserve fund for the bonds is determined to be necessary or appropriate by the president of the commission and the advice of the commission's financial advisor. The final maturity date of the bond shall not be later than January 15, 2032. Bonds may be subject to redemption prior to maturity on terms determined by the commission prior to the sale of the bonds with the advice of the commission's financial advisor. The proper officers of the city are hereby authorized and directed for and on behalf of the city to execute and deliver any contract, agreement, certificate, instrument, or other document, and to take any action as such person determines to be necessary or appropriate to accomplish the purposes of this resolution. Such determination to be conclusively evidenced by such person's execution of such contract, agreement, certificate, instrument, or the other document or such person's taking of such action. This resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage by the common council and approved by the mayor as required by law.
And it was not your fault, the word that should be there is coterminous, so that we can take it out.
No one said that anyway.
This,
By way of discussion, I'd just like to say, since I voted against the introduction of the resolution, I am for the purchase of a sprinkler for the golf course after evaluating the situation. And we do need to deal with the longer term concerns around the direction the golf course is going. We do have financial statements from the golf course which show that it has been increasing the money drain on the city. And in fact, the last 3 years has suffered an aggregate loss of $30,000 from operations, not including purchases that have been made by the golf course from non-diverted funds and purchases made by the city in the last 3 years. And even if you go back, you really have to go back to 2010, 2009, when the golf course was making a significant amount of money to generate a positive profit. In fact, if you look at the last 10 years of the golf course, from 2007 to 2016, the overall profit, to include factoring purchases that were made by the city or by the non-diverted fund of the golf course, which is retained profits. So the golf course has basically had a profit, including all expenditures, of $100,000 for 10 years, which is about $10,000 per year. I do not want to minimize the significance of the golf course when I came here from the Chicago Suburbs 25 years ago for the very reasons that the course is a special place, historic architecture, lakes, park system, city-owned golf course. That value-added proposition is huge and differentiates us. I think over the long run, if this should get funded, we need to look at hopefully improved financial results as a result of this.
Councilman Sanders,
And
could I ask you a question before you continue? Because I know you have a lot of things to discuss about this, but when you discuss this golf course in terms of whether or not it makes money, as part of essentially our Parks Department, are we looking then forward to Fox Park making money and Stone Lake making money and charging for parking, etc.? I don't know that this municipal golf course is necessarily there with the mission primarily of making money.
well, that's what I was saying. I was engaging in that discussion myself.
Okay.
So,
Continue to have some.
so the concern, I think that, I'm simply saying this, that the residents need to be aware of financial trends. And the hope is that with the generosity of the child donation and with a
sprinkler system that the golf course will return to, because $1 million is a significant expense. And I think that we would be fiscally responsible to simply take that lightly and say, you know, let's just rubber stamp this. The old sprinkler system in 1989 cost $240,000. This one's $1 million. So, but, you know, I had come to the conclusion, as I stated, to support this. So that's, you know, because I believe that you do have to factor in the intangible values of the golf course, like the civic auditorium. But the methodology that I wanted to use for this was a lease finance. And it troubles me deeply. It troubles me deeply that it took my going to the park department and looking at the park department reports to see that the 1989 sprinkler system was funded through a lease. And yes, it wasn't a lease bond, but it was a lease that was outside of general obligation bonds. Presumably, we didn't have bonding authority back then, or we didn't want to use bonding authority. So I take very seriously an unprecedented action that we are proposing to take tonight, which is to grade or use the bonding authority of the redevelopment commission, where the only general obligation bond I'm aware of that's been issued there in all these years is to fund the cleanup of the city landfill, because general obligation bonds are generally more usable for broader purposes of the city. So we will be, if we pass this, we will be encumbering half, for 10 years, half of the bonding capacity of the redevelopment commission as general obligation bonds, which means that if they have something come up that would be a need, they say that they will use lease finance bonds because they're larger projects. The fact of the matter is there are some projects you can't use lease finance bonds for. If we discover that something needs an environmental cleanup, that there's no Alice Chalmers money floating around, that's $2 million less that we can use from the redevelopment commission. So my insistence and my desire for the whole time, and I brought this up at the finance committee meetings in July, were that this project should be funded as a lease finance. I believe I've been ignored, and I believe that the timing got too late to do it as a lease financing, and that now we're supposed to rubber stamp this. So, based upon the timing as I understand it, 6 to 8 weeks, I'd like to see whether or not we can get a bridge loan. I talked to the clerk earlier today, and she reported on this, but I'd like to get more information on whether or not we can possibly use a lease financing and temporarily borrow from other city funds, and meet with the financial advisors and have a workshop. So I think we should table this and have that discussion, because we can always come back to the next council meeting once we've done that homework and see that we can't actually do a lease financing, and approve this as, if we want to, as a redevelopment commission bond. But those monies from the redevelopment commission, make no mistake, should only be used in extremis. The city has never used redevelopment commission general bonding authority for city matters. You can say that a golf course sprinkler system is economic development or redevelopment, but you know, you can say almost anything is. But I don't take lightly using the capacity of the redevelopment commission.
Tim, can I?
Let me finish. When this could have been done as a lease finance fund, which the aggregate cost of the lease finance fund will be about 1.5% more over the life of the bond.
You know much more about these funds, I certainly. My question though, in terms of this discussion and when, 2 weeks ago, I know you've been sat in on this meeting with the redevelopment commission. When the RDC began talking and you are council liaison to that, were there discussions at meetings that you were unable to attend, or because you seem to think that certain decisions were made by people without discussion about the options, but I'm just wondering, can you tell me, or is there something, do you know when the RDC was first approached about this bond issue? And
Yes, I can report we're actually handing out a timeline of a bond process that was completed by the city. I can go through it kind of point by point, or the council members can review it at their will, but if you refer to this, as you see, August 31st was the first time that I brought up the redevelopment commission, where Mr. Stamos is the council's liaison, but he's not present at the meeting. The council explained the geo bonding capacity was not available gone through the RDC, Mr. Bertram, who is the president of the redevelopment commission, asked that we explore all options. He was not comfortable with just going with one option. He wanted to make sure that it was properly vetted, that we looked at lease financing, that we looked at geo capacity, that we looked at different options. And so with that, I went back to our financial advisors and bond counsel in September and asked them to provide analyses for those different processes. At the October 26th bond or redevelopment commission meeting, Mr. Staples was not present. The city planner and myself were able to explain to RDC the mechanism which was given as the most recommended by the financial advisor and by bond counsel. We discussed a memo that was presented by bond counsel to the RDC and was looked at by the redevelopment commission. There was a detailed discussion at that October meeting. And then the RDC approved moving forward with the presentation of documentations to the RDC for the potential of passing a resolution with geo bonding. And then you'll see further that in November at a park board meeting, Mr. Schreiber discussed with park board the RDC approving bonding capacity through the RDC. And then it goes on to the fact that we had a joint meeting in January regarding this bonding capacity after there was appropriate consideration as to our AB and for the appropriate method for moving forward. So the discussions that were had with the redevelopment commission, as it was definitely not taken lightly, and I don't want to speak for them, but I know being there for the discussion, it was not something that they just decided to do. They definitely took their time and asked appropriate questions.
Well, I respect that Councilman Staples has the history and the background in this area and can bring these questions to us, but I also put a lot of trust in the people that have been elected or have been hired or put into committees. And I trust that, and this is that information that had the last moment to suddenly argue.
That's a mischaracterization. That's a mischaracterization, I resent it. So mischaracterization is this, the thing you're leaving out is this. In this timeline, I see nothing on this timeline that has any reference to City Council Finance Committee being included in any deliberations or emails with regard to these methodologies. So it's very nice that the redevelopment commission
No, it's included at the top of the list in July.
I know, because I was at that finance committee.
You were at one of the finance committee meetings. You missed the
Yes,
last two.
your notice was very short on those finance committee meetings. You gave like 6 week notice allowed me downstate. And you ignored my request for a different date. So that was not something that I would take fault for. But at the July finance committee meeting, the only time the finance committee met about this issue since July of last year, mind you, I said I wanted to do Teresa and to the mayor that I wanted to do this with finance. And what was done was you wanted to find out what our general obligation bonding capacity was, and so you waited and you waited and you waited.
I did not wait, none of
The
us waited
administration,
in.
Sorry, talk one at a time so that we can have proper.
We approached, when we were paying our last GO bond payment, not my practice, but the city's practice. It's not my practice personally, but it's been the city's practice. And whenever you pay off the clerk treasurers in the past, represented to do GO bonds, so that your taxpayers don't see a fluctuation in their tax rates. Once a GO bond is paid off, we have always gone to the next GO bond to level off those tax rates. And as you told me today, there are a ton of needs that the city has. So the natural step is, whether it was irrigation for the golf course or it was whatever the city's need is to start that process of looking at the GO bonds. Unfortunately for us,
The tax rate of fund up to use of these finance funds.
unfortunately for us,
Mr. Staples, you asked for permission to finish your statement. You kind of let Ms. Ludlow finish her statement.
unfortunately for us, the AB had dropped handful of advisors to tell me we had no geo bonding capacity. Okay? At that time, I reported to the mayor and the city attorney what we were told. It is not the clerk treasurer's decision to float a deal bond or a lease purchase. It is my responsibility to research it. And that's exactly what happened. And it started clear back in August.
If the council would have been involved in finance meetings, and I've talked to other council people who feel the same way, that we were not included, then decisions could have been made that could have been done differently. But
Councilman Staples, as you see on the timeline presented to you, there are these 6 public meetings. Anyone could have participated in those public meetings. In addition to those meetings, there were finance committee meetings, which apparently
no finance meeting since July about this matter.
the issue had been addressed in the finance committee meetings.
You know, we can debate this all you want, but the fact of the matter is, the feelings are that.
Feelings held by yourself. I can't
I'm
change
not
that.
the only one that feels this way. I don't want to speak up or not speak up, I'm talking privately. The council is excluded in this process, and there's a sense of the administration going in the direction they want to go in, and, you know, we'll propose, you dispose. And, you know, it's just, we had to call out the drive, the road's closed off, and then we're supposed to approve it retroactively. You know, and you weren't at the city council.
Mr. Staples,
So-
you're comparing apples to oranges.
I don't need you to interrupt, actually. I don't need you to interrupt.
Okay, let me know when you're finished. Are you finished?
That's part of the problem, is that when we have a hired gun who will not be fair-minded between the council and the mayor, then we need to have our own attorney. You know, because.
Who's the hired gun that's not being fair?
Becca. So,
I don't,
Here's just one thing, sorry.
it's Councilman Robinson.
Is one of the issues is if you're going to buy a house, you're gonna sit down with your loan officer. And you, let's say you ask them, I want $200,000 to buy a house. They're probably gonna ask you, what's the information about the house? They're not gonna give you the money. We have yet realistically to see a plan as to even what they're doing in a sprinkler system, what they're putting on a fire truck. But we want to approve the money. I don't think that's, I think the issue that we have is if they had this plan, they should have given us the plan so we know what's gonna take place. I said, I'm in favor of doing this, but that's a lot of blind trust to give the fire department $2 million. If they have that plan, why didn't they just present it to us?
The plan has been in place, matter of fact, Kyle had the plan at the last meeting. He could have rolled out the blueprints. We've had somebody probably to interpret them, but we did have the plans ready. Nobody brought these concerns up at the joint meeting, but we did have the plans there, Joe. About the plans?
Just tell me that it's making money. I mean, all I wanted to know was just.
You asked for what? The plan?
I said, tell them what they're doing. You know, what stage of things on this? I mean, if you hired an engineer or to draw up the system, why could you prevent and say, this is what we're doing with the money? I'm in favor of the plan, but it just put a lot of blind trust as to.
So you would like to review the plans to make
We
sure
just
that
want to
they're
know what they're spending the money on. I think that's fair to understand.
Yeah, I'm on the finance committee too, I'd like to do a little more.
Yeah,
You wanna know
Kyle
what
can speak
specifically?
specifically to everything we're getting right now.
But, you know, that was just the understanding, is okay, what are you doing, what's going on? So we had an idea even how much,
The scope of the project would be, we have 2 wells. We'd be servicing both wells, getting new pumps, new motors, all new sprinkler heads, all new pipes, all new gate valves, all new computer system, all new software. And that's pretty much it. A whole new system.
And I guess just that understanding is to look if they haven't put it up to bid. Was there a preliminary estimate, is this is where they anticipate it comes from? I mean.
Yeah, it's somewhere in the 900,000 range. The bids will actually come in, assuming it gets approved, in the next about 3 weeks.
And I think it just came from when we had the bond for City Hall. And so said, well, we're gonna spend $2.5 million. We wanted to know what they were going to do, what entails with $2 million. I think that's a fair, understandable.
If you want to review them, you're more than welcome to take this copy, I have more. So it is about a 30-page document that's very specific as to exactly the work that's to be done. Specifications, the type of system, it's a Rainbird system, the software that goes into it, the electric, the decoder valves, all the different specifics of it. I'm not an expert, I've been in probably 20 hours worth of meetings on it, so I know a little bit more than I used to, but it's one of the best out there.
And I just wondered if it was going, is it just one company that's doing it, or there's gonna be others bidding on it?
3 separate contractors.
And it's all with the same system?
It's all with the same parts, the Rainbird parts. You could either go Rainbird or Toro. We decided after meeting with both companies that Rainbird had the superior system. Costs of each were very similar. When you looked at the parts, and then the contractor obviously is where you get into all the labor. But Rainbird had the better system when you looked at the specifications of what we could do with the system.
And that was just my concerns, if the contractor would come out and take a look at it and say, oh, wait a minute, whoever drew up the original, this, something. So, I think that's the.
And I had some experience with this contractor. I worked at a club in Michigan City, and they did an entirely new system, double row, same exact thing, similar price is what we're gonna do, with the same consultant, same brand, Rainbird. It was amazing. I mean, they're a very high-end country club, so it meets all of their needs and then some. So I'm very confident that we picked the right company and the right consultant. And again, I'd love to show you the plot map and the GPS of every single sprinkler head and the document. The thing, and I think the other question would be, well, could we scale back? Are we getting too much? Is the other side of it. And when you're talking about a project like this, when you have a company come out and pull all the trench and coal and all the labor, if you're gonna put in a single row, you might as well put in a double row. And if you're gonna get all of these sprinkler heads put in, you're gonna put in all this state-of-the-art equipment, you're gonna wanna do your pumps, and you're gonna wanna service your wells, and get yourself, so from what I've seen, this money doesn't come around every 5 years. So if we put in $500,000 into a system, and then our pumps all go out and we need $200,000, now we're in a tough spot. So I don't think there's be a huge cost savings to do a lesser system. But go ahead.
I think it's just a little different because I've been involved in the auditorium project at the high school with the engineers. And, they came back and said, this is what we're looking at. And then, they kind of put together some wish lists. Councilman Federer could say the same thing. It's just so we knew along the process. Then they came back and said, hey, this is going to work, this is not going to work. So we're trying to get an idea, but, it's just at the last minute. They didn't say, give us the money, then this is what we're going to do.
Right, and I do understand what you're saying, Joe. At the same time, I think your roles there are what Carlos's and Kyle's roles are at the golf course. You could roll out those blueprints and I might be able to read them to you and I might be able to tell you a little bit about it. We could pass it around if everybody'd like to take a look at them and have them interpreted. But that's why, and I like your analogy about the home. I'll go buy a home, but you know what, I'm gonna have a home inspection because I don't know anything about electric, I don't know anything about the roofing. That's why I have an expert. He's our expert, Carlos, our ground superintendent's our expert, and they've been walking lockstep in this, but you were certainly, we've had the plans available, so.
See, the place where high school been posted online for the website, they had it on the floor, and like it's a here.
So if we posted those online, you think the general public would look at those and say, no, you should have a head over here?
But the council probably would spend a month.
But, I don't know if this is neither here nor there, but I believe that's why we're all on committees and boards other than city council. I'm on park board, a liaison to park board. This has been discussed at park board, and I know that I have reported on the irrigation system. So anybody can go to the park meetings and have heard this, so it shouldn't really come as a surprise. And I know we can't micromanage, so I think that's why we're all on boards. And we all hope that the boards are going to make decisions that we're going to bring back to the council that we can all respect.
The other makes sense.
I mean, that's my 2 cents.
I would like to add in I do as much as I can to try and share information because I do believe that that helps build consensus and to try and share all of that. Throughout this process, there's been a considerable amount that we haven't known. And that was what took us to this point as far as trying to understand from a general sense of what are our financial capabilities. That the bigger question I've had with all of this is understanding why we got to a point that there's been such a wild shift in our assessed valuation. And that was the bigger question I had to answer, which didn't come until last month when we had the joint session, because we finally had some information to be able to answer why we were seeing such a significant shift in our total assessed valuation that then changed our geo-bonding capacity. And I wouldn't feel comfortable bringing forward any suggestion for approval before we had a handle on understanding what is that long-term financial picture going to look like. That if this decreased assessed valuation is supposed to be now our new normal, then I think we have to have a better understanding of what our ability is going to be to do big projects in the future. Now that we understand that it's really trying to address what was an artificial inflation of assessed valuation by having a temporary artificial deflation of the assessed valuation, we have a better understanding of what the future is going to look like. Throughout the entire process, I share as much information as I can, but if you have questions, please ask them. That I don't believe that there's ever been a time when somebody has called my cell phone and I haven't responded to the call, I haven't returned the call. And I can't read everyone's mind to know that these are questions that exist. So that's why we have opportunities to ask the questions. And if there's something that comes up at a later date, then I would be happy to return the phone call, as I have done time and again. And there have been times that I have taken the initiative to reach out to individuals to try and provide information, as I have done routinely and did again this weekend.
But what we're missing is that the question is this, and I ask this soberly and seriously, why did we wait until too late in the game to include other options than the general obligation about the redevelopment commission? Why do we assume that the council's going to have to understand this? Why did the clerk and mayor wait until the last minute to present out an option to council?
It was not the last minute, Tim.
It is
You
last
and
minute.
I
You're saying
have
you
had
can't release financing. That's what you're
conversations
saying.
on this. There, some bond council has informed us that irrigation may not qualify for a lease bonding.
But now we're told
Now, then we're told that it could, that there still could be problems with
it
it.
seems like the letter from Omaha says it could be done.
We called bond council today because obviously UMBA's financial advisors did put together an analysis, but they also always refer us to bond council to check with them. Bond council had serious concerns regarding lease financing option, because what it would basically mean is, in order to have lease financing, and you'll see this as bullet point 1 on the breakdown between the general obligation and lease finance, you have to have something to lease. So if for some reason there was a default mechanism, what would be given back? So you can't just lease the irrigation system, you have to lease the real property that the irrigation system is attached to. And in that manner, what you would have to do is run easements for whoever the leases belong to through the entire golf course for the real property, which leaves the real property at issue for if there was a default. That was a concern, and it was recommended that we do not look at that because of the concern that it brought legally.
Well, it was done in 1989, so I guess things have changed.
That was not, our understanding is that was not a lease bond.
Right, but it was a lease.
May I just say, as the president of the park board, Mr. Staples, I recognize that there's a lot going on here that has a lot more to do with intricate details that maybe the park board doesn't get into. But as the president, I take it very seriously that you're making this sound like some sort of a last minute secretive process. Come on,
Yeah,
you guys just speak a lot. Come on.
just walking up and talking, I mean, council here, that's fine, but
I'm not talking.
we're kind of doing deliberation and like.
There was a few other people that got to speak. Am I?
Well, just, you know, go ahead.
Well, I am the president of that board that you're sort of implying was a little bit secretive and
Did I say you were secretive? I didn't say you were secretive.
Last minute, you're just hearing about it. I'm just responding to that. It's very important to me that our meetings are been publicly. Excuse me?
Councilman Stamos, would you allow the park board president to address the?
I said nothing about secretive.
I feel like it was implied. I feel like
What's your allegation?
I'm not alleging anything, I'm responding. What I'm responding to is just the fact that, we have a golf pro that we, the park board trusts.
Let me interrupt you, but I have to, you were not privy to the private discussions or lack of discussions between the council and the finance committee, and the lack of an involvement from the finance committee. The mayor and the clerk treasurer sitting down with the finance committee, the city council on the board, and saying, hey guys, what do you think is the best option here? Is it a lease finance bond, or is it a general obligation bond? We could rate it.
Sure, I believe that was actually the first thing I said, that there was a lot of financial details that I was not privy to. But I am addressing the implication that this was a last minute, undiscussed process and that there was not a plan.
You were not privy to that.
We had a plan, we discussed the plan very extensively.
I'm not criticizing the park.
Councilman Stamos.
I am not criticizing the park.
Councilman Stamos.
I'm criticizing the administration.
Excellent.
I'm not criticizing the park department.
Okay,
Wait a minute. No, you can't.
there are groups in the finance committee that I think we could have been a little more involved in. I would have been all 30 pages. It don't bother me, hell, I'm retired, I don't care, I got plenty of time. I think we could have been involved a little more. I understand that Councilman Staples is saying what he wants, and if you know him, it's normal. I don't knock what he's saying, and it's your right, and this is where he should be saying it. I believe we could have been involved a little more, there's three of us here. But I do have a question. When you people advertise for the golf courses, is it just online? I didn't even know they had free children could play free out there every Monday when they were on vacation.
I am part of it. I know I did.
When we advertise our services, there is a lot of advertising on the park's Facebook, which I can't tell you how many followers, but it's a lot. There's advertising on the park marquee, I've seen advertising in newsletters, on the school, website, which I think we have a couple of teachers here. When you go to lpcsc.k12.9.us, you can go and there's like a rotating, banner of a lot of local signups and, softball, t-ball, that sort of thing. I don't personally read the newspaper a lot, so I can't tell you what's in there, but I do know that we get plenty of reports from our recreation director about what she's doing to get out the word for our programming. And I think Carol's absolutely at her meeting, and she knows.
I think it's a good thing, and I'm glad the kids are involved. And, but I do agree, if this is time bad enough for everybody to have their say, yeah, I think maybe the three of us could have got a little more involved. And I've worked some redevelopment commission meetings, and I've heard down virtually everybody talking over here. And Tim's taking his way. If we have to go to the Geo bond thing or whatever, that's fine. But the guy's got a right to say his stuff.
A couple of things I want to point out, that what you have before you here is an option. You can choose not to go forward with that option, should you wish. That will delay the process, and so that is part of the discussion that has been held here this evening. And we are at this point in the process because of the due diligence that went into everything, understanding what our varying options would be. And that brought us to today, which then brought forward what we believe to be the best option.
You acknowledge that the due diligence curve inherently precludes certain other options because of time taken. You acknowledge that, right?
No, I don't believe so. It precludes any
When you say
other
curves of
option.
these financing, because they need it.
Mr.
Sorry, that's the mayor. Excuse me, I'm asking the mayor.
I would like to address the fact that you asked a question, and I think I can provide an answer, and I would think that would be what you want. I spoke with Mr. Semler today, who is our financial advisor on these matters, and one of the things that he was concerned with is making a bond decision before you know what your assessed value is going to be or what's going to happen to your assessed value in the next year is a dangerous game to play.
Sorry, what? Explain that.
So we did not know, if you look at your timeline that was presented to you, you see on January 9th was when we discussed some
provide,
Last time we provided
So
the
what-
opportunity.
yeah, so after that meeting, what we decided to do was meet with the council and the RDC to discuss and to.
Councilman Staples, is it that you want me to invite you to every meeting that I or the staff hold at any point?
No, obviously not. Obviously not.
How is that obvious?
I think a $2 million bond is a finance matter, and the council, the finance committee, the city council should be involved in the $2 million bond, not the operating policy of the city. There's a difference there. There's a difference.
I'd like to go to the fire truck and start the bond, okay? Nobody's asked about it. Now, we sold land, and they had like 150,000, something like that. Now, the price of the truck, this is coming right off before we borrow anything, right? On the truck,
Yes, correct.
what's the truck cost?
I think the estimate was $650.
Yes. What's the actual cost of the truck, not what we're bonding for?
That's what it would be for this. Yes.
So those will be estimates on a truck until it goes to bid or until we go to the other funding, purchasing type that we might use for it. We will not know exactly what the truck will cost, but educated estimates from dealing with manufacturers right now are in the $650,000 range.
Isn't that a little low?
Depends on what type of truck you're looking for.
Trucks go for $1 million each.
Oh, they can. I mean, depends, again, it's a very specialized piece of equipment. The truck that we have with the features included in it, we feel comfortable with the $650,000. If we were talking about an aerial device or something like that, easily we'd be up around the $1 million mark.
Is that a total cost, or is that total of 150?
That's the total cost.
They gotta throw in a couple firemen with that?
We would like. You're the ones that make the decisions, I'll take that.
Oh.
One more. Geez, man.
Yes.
Will it have, I know the last truck, once we got it, we had to re-equip it with some of the parts that were on the existing, which was, I can't remember the name of the hose that's on the back.
The large diameter hose on the back, the 5-inch hose.
Yes, we'll have that indicated.
Yes, the hose, most of the equipment will be able to be taken from the old unit and put onto the new unit. The large diameter hose you're referring to, we received a grant a couple of years ago that re-equipped the entire department with the hose.
So, well, if it stays within that 650, it gives us 1350 for the golf course. 13 for the golf course.
The market price of the bond should be like at 1.2, right? Something like that for the golf course.
185 is what we have left on hand, and then minus 5, whatever.
Okay.
May I make a motion to vote?
Actually, I'd still like a discussion.
She can make the motion at any time she'd like to have, so it's a motion for adoption.
Let's move the table.
I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to have further discussion.
There is. So we're open for discussion right now. And
Our job here as council people is to do what's best for the city. And I think we can do that in the cheapest way possible for the taxpayers. So, as far as what kind of bond is it, it really doesn't matter. Pick the one that has the lowest fees, the lowest interest rate, the lowest impact on taxpayers, and it gets the job done. It doesn't matter what kind it is. It only matters what we can get the most for our money. And I'd like to note, I really was kind of bothered by the fact that this would lower the bonding capacity of the RDC, because is it really their mission? I'm not sure. And I was very heartened to find out that if our assessed value debacle that was created gets fixed, that we can actually return the favor. If something came along to the RDC and they didn't have the bonding capacity to quite get it done, the city could actually float them a bond and replenish their bonding capacity or enhance their bonding capacity later. So I'd love to see it as more of a, we're all on the same team, we all have the same goals, this is the reason we're here, and the reason we're here is to get things done, get things moving. And if it takes one entity to help another entity that's part of the same group, so be it. We just need to move forward and get it fixed.
at this point, I'd like to invite John for
That's a valid
discussion.
motion. I'd actually, first, that's
create a bond, this is important, folks, create a bond that's arm's length in the political process, because redevelopment stands apart from any council person, not so the mayor, because the mayor is the chief executive of the city, and she directs these things, rightly so, but has an element of arm's length in the political process so that we don't do, oh, we have a wish list, let's stick it on the redevelopment commission, loan out the whole city, and now we can't do redevelopment. So I like what you're saying, but I think that the counterpoint is also very important.
And then to that, I'd like to invite redevelopment commission president Don Burton.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you all for attending this evening. First and foremost, we all love LaPorte. That's why we're here. There are certain needs in LaPorte, and we are all here to fulfill those needs. The RDC has done its very best to close the gap and make this all a reality. So we've given it a lot of thought since last August. There were some options. The least expensive way is general obligation. That's the best for the taxpayer, and I absolutely agree with that. But one item that I would like the city council to recognize, and this comes with what you were talking about. Everything we've done at the RDC is approved and reviewed by the 5 commissioners, and everything we do is approved by the city attorney and the city engineer. There is nothing we do without the attorney reviewing our contracts and our city engineer reviewing the specification. We don't spend a dollar of city money without those 2 individuals looking checks and balances. So I would hope that the city council grants this resolution subject to the city attorney reviewing any contracts for purchase and the city engineer reviewing any specification from the park department. So now we have some checks and balances that we're not buying something for $2 million that we should buy for $200,000. And we did that all at Fort Randy, and it worked phenomenal. We came in under budget. Everything got done in the proper time. Thank you to the city attorney and Mr. Minnick, the city engineer. I couldn't have done it without them and without the other council people. So I would strongly suggest this resolution be approved, and I understand, Tim. I have a question for you. Yes, but I understand your thoughts. But it's for the good of LaPorte, and we could do it and serve the purpose that we're here for. Go ahead.
Serve the purpose we're here for. Do you have any discomfort as the president of the redevelopment commission like this?
Absolutely. I thought about it. The first meeting, I thought, why in the world would we be spending money on a golf course?
The city of LaPorte itself can fund it by itself with the lease financing that costs 1 or 2%.
But to this, okay. Well, to go back to the city, right now we have an assessed value that our bonding capacity is based upon, our general obligation. Next year that number may be less, so we may not we'll have less bonding capability.
All the reasons to use the lease financing, so we're retaining that capability.
Well, the projects that we're looking at, our current $3.5 million worth of capacity could not fulfill that need. And that's why we're only using we're using $2 million of the $3.5 million cap. And to summarize the numbers, based upon the fire department, we budgeted $650,000, and maybe a little more, maybe a little less. We budgeted $1 million for the park department. We're gonna see the bids, how they come in. City attorney, city engineer will review the bids. And then we have some costs associated with the bonding mechanism. We may come in under the $2 million. We may come in at 1.8 million, which would be terrific. But we set a cap, a limit on what we could borrow. And I really believe it's for the benefit of LaPorte. So thank you for hearing my thoughts, and I think it will really help LaPorte. Thank you.
I want to address the characterization of the 2 different finance mechanisms. That there's simply a difference of
administrative costs and some of the timelines. Those are two components of it. That there are lesser fees, administrative fees under the GO bond process through the RDC than would be through the lease finance bond. Additionally, the timeline was addressed and the fact that pursuing this route allows us to have access to the funds at an earlier time frame than going through a lease finance bond. There was no purposeful delay to take us to this point so that then this was your only option. This was the earliest that we could bring any option before the council, and the reason being that the due diligence of understanding the larger implications of the assessed valuation and the significant fluctuations that we've seen over the past few years was finally explained in a way that we had some semblance of an idea of what the future would hold. So what is...
Foreclose another option by
No, I'm...
foreclosing lease financing, you're saying?
You're saying it's foreclosing the lease financing. I'm saying that there are two options before you. With...
Well, I asked the city attorney to bring a resolution about a lease finance bond.
I think you made that request on Friday, of which then, in the ability to turn that around, then it was then processed that the city attorney doesn't draft those resolutions. Bond counsel does, which then the city pays a service fee for as well. So then the request was made, I believe, this morning for the resolution to be drafted. So the council is working in the quickest fashion possible. So the two options before you, if you say that there are two options, are that you can move forward with the general obligation bond that then would allow access to the funds to do the process, to do the construction. I think we looked at March 9th that the funds would become available to then do construction. Or if you go through the lease financing mechanism that you propose, then there are higher administrative costs. There is a delay because you have to work through the process of acquiring easements for all of the area that we go through Beechwood in order for lease finance holders, leaseholders, bondholders to be able to have towards that lease that you're trying to put on the irrigation system.
I guess that's something that I'll left out of the cost estimate sheet.
As far as, this was a question that, based on your request, I posed to bond council. So as far as Unwell leaving it off their sheet, they did not address that issue. I didn't ask them that specific question. I asked it to Tom based on his legal analysis. Because he's going to be the one that would comment on this.
And the legal component there, which is, I think, what should be a drastic difference between the general obligation bond process and then this lease financing bond process, would be that if you go through the lease finance mechanism, because of the type of item that you're purchasing, of an irrigation system that's going to be placed in Beechwood Golf Course and requiring easements that would then be held with bondholders, then that opens the question up for whether there's a challenge to the original deed of the Fox family. And the lease finance bond creates or requires a period that any legal challenge can be opened for this. So if at any point somebody tries to legally challenge the fact that the city has established easements with property owners that were easement holders other than the city, then there is ample opportunity for someone to legally challenge that in accordance with the Fox family deed that established Beechwood Golf Course initially. So I think that should impose considerable pause when considering going through the lease finance bond. Both are options. That's up for the council to choose. I think you've heard from folks here this evening that there is great support for the golf course in this community and great understanding of the need for this irrigation system and to do so in a way that is timely so as to take advantage of as much of the season to be able to bring all of the value that Beechwood Golf Course brings to this community.
I'll just point out that any lease
lease finance is legally challenged,
Exactly. Yes.
including previous lease finances we've done for fire stations, fire trucks, and all kinds of things. That's,
And what I'm pointing out is that there is ample opportunity for someone to challenge that.
is there
In
going to
this
be
specific instance.
lease finance in the future?
This is regarding this particular instance where we were talking about a deed where the Fox family deeded this golf course to the community with the understanding that the community would then be maintaining and operating the golf course. Should anything change in that nature, then it's to revert back to the Fox family. That's not the case with the fire station or with many other projects across the community.
Yeah, that's strange for Julie, but it's true.
You know, in this specific resolution, I feel I have enough information at this time to vote. And can I have a motion?
I'd like to call the question.
Well, I think that you need to allow, say that everyone's had their say, I don't know what else to say.
I'm good.
Any member can call the question.
I think anyone can call the table also. I've had my say.
You're on a motion, make a motion, accept the resolution.
Actually, we already have a motion and a second on the table in the discussion, so if that's a call to question, then I can ask the vote right now.
Then
Yes.
yes.
So the question has been called. All those in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay?
Nay.
6 to 1.
If we have long, we, just all the questions.
Hey, we're not over. Well, the only other item that I have on here is if we have any other business to come before the council.
Your Honor, I move to introduce an ordinance to amend Article 19 of the zoning ordinance, number 15-2011 of the city of LaPorte, Indiana, as enacted September 19, 2011, and which is a part of Chapter 82 of the minutes of the code of the city of LaPorte, Indiana.
Is there a second? All right, I have a motion and a second for the introduction of the ordinance. All those in favor of introducing this ordinance, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Then please introduce the ordinance.
Whereas the common council of the city of LaPorte requests the agency a proposal to amend the zoning ordinance of the city of LaPorte, Indiana, as enacted September 19, 2011, as part of Chapter 82 of the municipal code of the city of LaPorte, Indiana, by amending Article 19 signs, Section 19.06, general professions for permitted signs, general what? Permission? For permitted signs, de-illumination, 5 electronic changeable message sign, and whereas the common council requests the city planning commission certify its recommendation to the common council on this amendment, and whereas that if there is a positive recommendation by the city planning commission, the common council will determine that current and 15 type of 2011 should be amended. Current and 15 type of 2011. Current and future? Current and
Ordinance.
current what?
It's ordinance 15-2011.
Not and, just ordinance.
And that current and ordinance 15-2011.
Current and ordinance should be amended. Now therefore be it as hereby ordained by the common council of the city of LaPorte, Indiana, that Section 1, Article 19, signs, Section 19.06, general provisions for permitted signs, de-illumination, 5 electronic changeable message sign, subparagraph A should be amended to read as follows. A, electronic changeable message signs are not permitted in residential zoning districts, National Register Historic Districts, or on parcels adjacent to or abutting National Register Historic Districts. See attached map marking for A. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect upon its passage, approved by the mayor, and publication is required by law. Becky, you want to explain it? You want to change it?
So, I can definitely have you explain it in more detail, but for the council's information, we've we had considerable discussion regarding the zoning code and some changes that were put in place when the zoning code went from a code that was specific to the city of LaPorte to a wider code that covered the county, Michigan City, and the city of LaPorte. We have since then realized that there are some provisions that don't fit all entities, and so we've been going back through. City planner has been doing a diligent job of making sure that all of the provisions of the code are in the best interest of the city. Because that is, we do want to make sure that we're doing an in-depth review. This was something that was brought forward so as to prevent any of those signs to come before that final revision is done. And so what would happen from this point is we would then ask that, as stated in the ordinance, the plan commission review this document and then make some recommendations to the council based on their review. But I don't know if you want to elaborate as far as you're concerned and.
Not much to add except that this was a provision that I think there are concerns with residents on the certain parts of the city and specific to the National Register District that we don't want electronic message boards proliferating in society in our downtown National Register District because from a zoning perspective it compromises the ambiance and type of feel we're trying to achieve in the downtown district, the National Register District downtown. And I thought that it was important to get this before the Plan Commission earlier here because of concerns and the fact that the changes to the entire zoning code, multi-year modifications to the entire zoning code may take longer than any of us exactly wanted. And so I thought this was important enough to bring this before the Plan Commission earlier for the review. I consulted with Beth from Schrader, our city planner, also the zoning board attorney, Mark Worthley, and this was the version of this that was come up with the best way to balance protections of historic areas with protections of business interests outside of historic areas. So I recommend that we, I'm not sure about how it will be done, but we can take a referral to the Plan Commission or have it automatically since it was introduced,
Based on the introduction, it will be referred to the state planning commission for their next meeting for review.
You already talked to two members right here.
Sorry?
We're two members right here. You presented it to us. Okay.
That's it?
I'd like to note that with this ordinance, as well as some may have observed throughout the evening, Councilman Stevens has been brought